At the heart of early Japanese mythology is Shinto, the native belief system of Japan. The word Shinto means way of the kami. Kami are divine spirits, or forces found in nature, objects, people, and phenomena. They are not always gods in a Western sense, but rather sacred presences, ranging from storm gods to the spirit of a mountain, from ancestors to mythical creatures. Unlike monotheistic religions, Shinto does not have a single creator god or a central holy text. Its oldest sources are collections of myths and legends written in the 8th century CE, the Kojiki, Records of Ancient Matters 712, and the Nihon Shoki, Chronicles of Japan 720. These texts were commissioned by the imperial court to document Japan's origins and legitimize imperial rule. The myths begin with the creation of the world. According to the Kojiki, in the beginning, heaven and earth were not yet separated, and everything existed in a chaotic mass. From this formless state, the first gods emerged spontaneously. These early deities are called the Kotoa Matsukami, separate heavenly kami, and they represent the abstract principles of order and cosmic structure. Later came the divine siblings, Izanagi and Izanami, who were given the task of creating the islands of Japan. Using a heavenly jeweled spear, they stirred the sea and formed the first land. This act initiated the formation of the Japanese archipelago and the birth of many kami related to natural elements: wind, fire, water, mountains, trees, and more. The story continues with the death of Izanami and Izanagi's descent into Yomi, the land of the dead, a myth that explains the origin of death and the separation between life and afterlife. Izanagi's ritual purification after escaping Yomi gives rise to some of the most important deities in the Shinto pantheon: Amaterasu, the sun goddess and ancestral deity of the imperial family; Tsukuyomi, the moon god; and Susanoo, the god of storms and seas. These three are known as the Mihashira no Uzunomiko, the three noble children. They occupy a central role in Japanese mythology and reflect the significance of natural forces in shaping human life and fate. Amaterasu is especially important, as she is considered the spiritual ancestor of the Japanese emperors. Her mythological presence reinforces the concept of divine rulership, which underpinned the political power of the imperial family for centuries. Another defining element of Japanese mythology is its polytheistic and syncretic nature. There is no fixed pantheon or hierarchy. Kami can be local or universal, gentle or fearsome, male or female, or none of these. Some kami are specific to a shrine or region, while others appear across many legends. A single natural object, a waterfall, a tree, a rock, may be regarded as sacred because of the kami believed to inhabit it. Unlike religions with codified doctrine, Japanese mythology evolved alongside culture and politics. As Buddhism entered Japan from China and Korea around the 6th century CE, it began to merge with native beliefs rather than replace them. Over time, Shinto deities were interpreted as manifestations of Buddhist figures, a process known as Shinbutsu Shugo. For example, the sun goddess Amaterasu was associated with Dainichi Nyorai, the cosmic Buddha. Myths were not just stories, they were embedded in ritual practice. Shrines, festivals, and rites honored the kami and maintained harmony between people and the spiritual world. Purification rituals, seasonal festivals, matsuri, and ancestral worship became essential parts of Japanese life. In early Japanese society, mythology served several functions. It explained natural phenomena, justified political authority, especially the emperor's divine origin, provided moral guidance through stories of reward, punishment, loyalty, and transformation, and offered spiritual connection with nature, family, and the unseen world. As you drift into sleep, know that these myths are not just tales of old, they are still very much alive. In every shrine gate standing alone in a rice field, in the whispering trees of ancient forests, and in the flicker of candlelight during summer festivals, the kami still linger. At the heart of Japanese mythology stand three deities whose stories have shaped not only spiritual belief, but also cultural identity: Amaterasu, Susanoo, and Tsukuyomi. These three kami, born from the cleansing ritual of the creator god Izanagi, represent core aspects of the natural world: the sun, the sea, and the moon, and play central roles in Japan's most enduring myths. The sun goddess Amaterasu is perhaps the most revered figure in the Shinto tradition. Her full name, Amaterasu Omikami, means the great August goddess who shines in the heavens. She is associated with light, clarity, order, and life-giving energy. According to myth, Amaterasu was born when Izanagi washed his left eye during a purification ritual after returning from the land of the dead. Amaterasu became ruler of the celestial realm, Takamagahara, and is considered the divine ancestor of the Japanese imperial family. Her grandson, Ninigi no Mikoto, was sent to Earth to bring order and cultivate the land, carrying with him the three sacred treasures: the mirror, the sword, and the jewel, symbols still used in imperial ceremonies today. Amaterasu's most famous myth centers on her temporary withdrawal from the world. After a violent outburst by her brother Susanoo, she hid inside a cave, plunging the world into darkness. The other kami, desperate to bring her back, performed rituals and dances outside the cave, finally drawing her out with a mirror, symbolizing self-recognition and the return of light. This story not only explains the cycle of day and night, but also reinforces Amaterasu's role as the provider of balance and illumination. Her brother, Susanoo no Mikoto, the storm god, is a far more unpredictable figure. Born from Izanagi's nose, he represents chaos, destruction, and transformation. In early myths, Susanoo is both feared and honored. His wild behavior, tearing up rice fields, throwing animal carcasses in sacred halls, ultimately led to his exile from heaven. Yet his later acts redeemed him. One of the most well-known stories tells of Susanoo's slaying of the Yamada no Orochi, an 8-headed serpent who terrorized the province of Izumo. By tricking the creature with vats of sake and then cutting it into pieces, Susanoo became a culture hero. Inside the serpent's tail, he discovered the sacred sword Kusanagi, which he offered to Amaterasu in atonement. This sword became one of the imperial regalia, symbolizing valor and the power to overcome chaos. The third sibling, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, the moon god, is a more mysterious figure. Born from Izanagi's right eye, Tsukuyomi is associated with the moon, night, and the cycles of time. He is less prominent in surviving myths, and his character is relatively undefined compared to his siblings. In the most notable story involving Tsukuyomi, he visits the food goddess Ukemochi on Amaterasu's behalf. Offended by the way she produced food, From her nose, mouth, and rectum, he killed her. When Amaterasu learned of this, she was horrified and severed all ties with Tsukuyomi. This tale explains why the sun and the moon dwell in separate skies, never appearing together. Together, these three kami form a powerful triad that represents cosmic order. Amaterasu brings light and authority. Susanoo embodies power and renewal through struggle. Tsukuyomi governs rhythm and reflection. Each one also reflects a core part of the natural world, and their personalities shape the symbolic language of Japanese religion and culture. Beyond this triad, many other kami inhabit the mythological world. Some are elemental or regional in nature, others deeply tied to human emotions and daily life. Japanese mythology does not isolate its deities to the heavens. The spirit world is continuous with the physical one. Mountains, rivers, forests, and even certain objects may be inhabited by kami. This idea, known as animism, remains central to Shinto practice. Importantly, kami are not always perfect or benevolent. They are emotional, reactive, and capable of both kindness and destruction. This reflects the Japanese understanding of nature, not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a force to be respected and harmonized with. As you breathe slowly and drift into stillness, imagine a world where the sun is a goddess, the sea a sword-wielding brother, and the moon a silent companion. These deities are not distant. They are in the rustle of leaves, the crash of waves, the silver path of moonlight on stone, and in the stories passed down for generations. Their presence endures. In Japanese mythology, the world is not divided into good and evil, but into realms of purity and pollution, harmony, and imbalance. The natural and supernatural are interconnected, and spiritual well-being depends on maintaining balance. Few stories illustrate this as clearly as the myth of Izanagi's journey to Yomi, the land of the dead. After the birth of the islands of Japan and many kami of nature, the divine couple Izanagi and Izanami attempted to give birth to the kami of fire, but the birth of the fire deity, Kagutsuchi, fatally burned Izanami. She died and descended into Yomi no Kuni, the dark, shadowy underworld. Stricken by grief, Izanagi set out to retrieve her. Yomi was not a hell in the Western sense. It was a place of decay and stillness where the dead resided, cut off from the light. When Izanagi found Izanami in the gloom, she warned him not to look at her. But overcome by emotion, he lit a torch and saw her decomposing body crawling with spirits of death. Horrified, he fled. Izanami, enraged, chased after him, vowing to take 1,000 lives each day. Izanagi responded that he would create 1,500 more in return. This myth explains not only the existence of death, but the cycle of life and rebirth. More importantly, it introduces a key concept in Japanese belief, spiritual pollution, or kegare. After his return from Yomi, Izanagi was tainted. To rid himself of the impurity, he performed a ritual cleansing in a river. This act, known as misogi, remains one of the most fundamental practices in Shinto. As Izanagi washed his body, new kami were born from the droplets. From his left eye, Amaterasu; from his right eye, Tsukuyomi; from his nose, Susanoo. Misogi is not symbolic. It is spiritually transformative. It purifies both the body and the soul, reestablishing harmony with the kami. In shrines throughout Japan, you can find temazuya, or water basins, where visitors rinse their hands and mouth before offering prayers. In some traditions, more intense forms of misogi involve standing under waterfalls or immersing in rivers during early dawn. This concern with purification is part of a broader worldview in which rituals are essential to maintain the balance between the human and spiritual realms. When that balance is disturbed by death, disease, or defilement, rituals are needed to restore order. One important ritual object in this cosmology is the mirror. In the myth where Amaterasu hides in a cave and plunges the world into darkness, the kami use a sacred mirror to coax her out. She sees her own reflection and, curious, steps forward. The mirror represents truth, clarity, and self-awareness, but also the divine light itself. Mirrors are now enshrined as symbols of Amaterasu in many sacred places, including the Ise Grand Shrine, Japan's most venerated religious site. Alongside the mirror, two other objects form the imperial regalia. The sword Kusanagi, found by Susanoo in the tale of the defeated eight-headed serpent, Yamata no Orochi, symbolizes courage and strength. The Magatama jewel, a curved bead, represents spirit, benevolence, and connection. These three items, the mirror, the sword, and the jewel, are not just royal insignia. They are sacred links between the imperial family and the gods, anchoring spiritual legitimacy in physical form. The themes of purification and sacred objects also extend into everyday life. Homes often have kamidana, household altars, and butsudan, Buddhist family altars, where offerings of water, salt, and rice are placed. Even today, many people observe small rituals, saluting a shrine gate, cleansing hands, offering coins and claps of the hand before prayer. These acts are simple, but rooted in centuries of reverence for spiritual order. Death, while a source of impurity, is not feared in the same way as in some Western traditions. It is accepted as part of the natural flow. However, because it brings kagare, funeral rites are carefully performed, and people often avoid shrines after attending funerals to prevent spiritual imbalance. The emphasis is always on restoring balance between the body and soul, between the living and the dead, and between humans and the invisible world of the kami. As night settles around you, imagine the flowing water of a mountain stream, the polished surface of a mirror catching sunlight, and the quiet presence of ancient spirits watching from within sacred groves. In Japanese mythology, the world is never divided sharply. It is a landscape of transitions, rituals, and reflection, where purification brings peace, and where every beginning, no matter how shadowed, leads toward light. In Japanese mythology, the spiritual world is not distant or abstract. It is near, immediate, and interwoven with the rhythms of daily life. The central figures of the mythology, Amaterasu, Susanoo, and other celestial kami, form only one part of a much larger, more intricate spiritual system. Most kami are not found in heaven, but in forests, rivers, rocks, homes, and ancestral memory. The word kami is often translated as God or spirit, but these English terms only partially capture the meaning. A kami can be a deity, a force of nature, an ancestral soul, or even an idea. What defines a kami is not its power or morality, but its sacredness, its ability to inspire awe, yorishiro, and affect the balance of the world. Kami are typically categorized into several broad types. 1. Nature kami, shizen no kami. These are the most ancient and widely revered. Mountains, waterfalls, trees, wind, and fire are not simply backdrops to life. They are living presences. For example, Mount Fuji is regarded as a sacred entity, often personified as a female kami. Inari Okami, a major agricultural deity associated with rice, is connected to foxes, kitsune, believed to be her messengers. Ryujin, the dragon god of the sea, lives in an undersea palace and controls the tides and storms. In this view, nature itself is divine. It is not worshipped from a distance, but approached with reverence and ritual. Shrines are often located at sites where the natural power of a place is especially strong, near springs, mountains, old trees, or coastal cliffs. Second ancestral kami, Ujigami. In ancient Japan, families or clans, called uji, often worshipped a specific ancestral spirit. These Ujigami served as protectors of the family's prosperity, health, and honor. Over time, as clans merged into regions and villages, these spirits became local guardian deities. Even today, many people visit shrines dedicated to the kami of their hometown or ancestral village, especially during New Year celebrations or local festivals, matsuri. The connection between the living and the dead remains strong, and rituals are performed to keep the bond unbroken. 3. Protective kami, Shugoshin. These kami act as guardians of places, professions, or people. They may protect travelers, fishermen, soldiers, or even specific temples. Some became prominent through historical legends. For instance, Hachiman is a war god revered by the samurai class, believed to protect warriors and the state. Tenjin is the deified spirit of Sugawara no Michizane, a scholar who became the kami of learning after death. Over time, people began to visit shrines for personal petitions, success in exams, safe childbirth, or protection from illness. Kami were not abstract. They listened, responded, and participated in the rhythms of human life. 4. Local and regional kami. Some kami are hyperlocal, existing only in one village or shrine. These may be based on ancient legends, natural events, or even objects thought to be inhabited by spirit. Shrines to these kami often preserve unique rituals, dances, or songs passed down over centuries. Because there is no strict dogma in Shinto, the identity and character of kami can vary widely. Some are benevolent and nurturing, others are temperamental or punishing. But even the most fearsome kami are not evil. They simply must be respected. Disrespect or neglect can lead to misfortune, while offerings and prayer bring harmony. 5th, yokai and border beings. Though not classified as kami, yokai, supernatural creatures like fox spirits, kappa, or tengu, inhabit the edges of mythology. Some are transformative spirits that straddle the line between kami and ghost. In certain regions and tales, powerful yokai are worshipped as deities or feared as bringers of imbalance. This reflects a uniquely Japanese trait. Mythology is flexible. It adapts to regional belief, to social change, and to imagination. The boundaries between kami, nature, ancestors, and spirits are not rigid. They shift and overlap like mist over mountains. Shrines and ritual practice. The connection between people and kami is maintained through shrines, jinja, and rituals. Shinto shrines are not places for congregational worship, but for personal communion. A shrine typically includes a torii gate, marking the threshold between ordinary space and sacred space. A main hall, where the kami resides, often represented by a mirror or sacred object. A cleansing basin for ritual purification. Ima, wooden plaques, where visitors write prayers and wishes. Regular festivals, seasonal rituals, and life milestones, birth, marriage, death, are moments where the presence of kami is especially acknowledged. Though many Japanese people today may not identify as religious, they continue to visit shrines for comfort, reflection, and tradition. As you rest now, imagine a forest path lined with mossy stones. At its end stands a quiet shrine nestled beneath ancient cedar trees. You bow, you clap twice, and for a moment the wind seems to answer. In Japanese mythology, the spiritual world is never far. It waits in the hush between footsteps, in the roots of trees, and in the memory of those who came before. While the myths of Japan describe heavenly realms, dragon-slaying gods, and cosmic creation, they were never confined to ancient scrolls or distant shrines. Japanese mythology lives in the rhythm of daily life, in festivals, rituals, art, and even language. The kami are not relics of the past. They remain a subtle, enduring presence in modern Japan. One of the most visible ways mythological thought endures is through seasonal festivals, known as matsuri. These events are held throughout the year, often tied to agricultural cycles or local legends. During a matsuri, the kami of a particular shrine are symbolically taken out in portable shrines, mikoshi, and paraded through the town. This act reaffirms the bond between the spirit world and the community, ensuring blessing, protection, and good fortune. Each region has its own unique matsuri, often blending mythology with history and local folklore. For example, the Aoi Matsuri in Kyoto honors the deities of the Kamo shrines with Heian-era processions. The Gion Matsuri, also in Kyoto, began as a ritual to appease plague-causing spirits and now features grand floats and parades. The Namahage ritual in Akita Prefecture involves masked ogres visiting households to warn lazy children and ensure good behavior, linking ancestral spirits, yokai beliefs, and agricultural tradition. In these festivals, myth comes to life. Through music, dance, costumes, and offerings, communities reconnect with kami that shaped their land and history. Japanese art and literature have also been deeply shaped by mythology. Ancient scrolls like the Kojiki Emaki illustrate scenes from the divine age, Amaterasu hiding in the cave, Susanoo confronting the serpent, or Ninigi descending from heaven with the imperial regalia. These stories were not just symbolic, they were the foundation of political legitimacy and cultural pride. Later, during the Heian and Edo periods, mythology influenced poetry, theater, and painting. The tale of Genji, while focused on court life, is laced with spiritual references. No theater, developed in the 14th century, often features ghostly characters, wandering spirits, or deities appearing in disguise. Its slow, meditative performance style reflects the boundary between this world and the next. In woodblock prints of the Edo period, we see a more playful engagement with myth. Fox spirits, tengu, and oni appear in comic or mysterious scenes. Artists like Utagawa Kuniyoshi and Toriyama Sekian depicted supernatural creatures that blurred the line between kami and folklore, introducing generations to the visual language of Japan's spiritual world. Even in everyday objects, mythological symbols persist. The shimenawa, a braided straw rope often seen on torii gates and sacred trees, marks a space where kami dwell. Omamori, small protective amulets sold at shrines, offer blessings for health, safety, love, or academic success. Daruma dolls, modeled after the Buddhist monk Bodhidharma, are used to make wishes and track goals. Though rooted in different traditions, all reflect a belief in unseen spiritual support. The Japanese language itself carries echoes of mythology. The word kami appears in phrases, poetry, and proverbs. Nature is often described with reverence. A beautiful sunset might be referred to as godly light, shinbi, and an exceptional person might be described as possessing divine technique, kamiwaza. Even today, shrines and spiritual etiquette remain part of daily culture. Bowing at a torii gate, clapping twice before prayer, or writing a wish on a wooden ima plaque are small acts that preserve centuries of connection. In modern Japan, mythology continues to evolve. It appears in anime, manga, video games, and film, mediums where traditional stories are reimagined for new generations. Characters inspired by Susanoo, Amaterasu, or fox spirits appear in popular culture, keeping the mythology dynamic and alive. Yet beneath this modern surface, the core belief remains unchanged. The world is filled with spirits. Mountains breathe, trees remember, rivers carry voices, and the boundary between the sacred and the mundane is always near, thin as mist, soft as falling snow. As you close your eyes, imagine the soft chime of a shrine bell, the rustling of leaves in an ancient grove, the warm glow of lanterns at dusk. The kami are still here, walking quietly alongside the living, watching over rice fields, families, and old stone paths. Japanese mythology is not simply a story of the past. It is a living tradition, a way of seeing the world with reverence, patience, and care. In every season, every ritual, and every whispering forest, it invites us to listen. And so, as sleep gathers gently around you, may you rest, knowing that even in silence, the spirits remain.